Last week I decided to try something different within Cyberpunk 2077. I decided to make a build inspired by one of my wife's favorite DC characters, Harley Quinn. But I didn't want to just create the build. I wanted to roleplay as her and see how far she could take me within Night City. I knew that by roleplaying as Harley Quinn, my options were going to be limited as far as what type of quest I was going to accept and what type of ending I was going to choose. But after already completing the game once in a 70-hour plus Netrunner build with whom I did most quests the game currently has to offer, I knew I was ready to try something different. And that something different would be Harley Quinn. I decided to create the build in the very hard difficulty since AI in this game is really not all there. As for her life path, I chose the Street Kid life path. Life paths in this game currently don't offer much. I chose the Street Kid because the outfit and just general vibe of this life path matched really well with the character and mostly the look that I was going for in my Harley Quinn. As for her starting attributes, I decided to max body at 6. I wanted her main weapon to be a melee weapon. After that, I decided to max tech as well at 6. The other main source of damage I wanted to rely on was explosives, and those came through frag grenades I found during the playthrough. And finally, I gave the last starting attribute point to cool. My thought process here is that I wanted to make use of the cold-blooded perk tree, but honestly, I didn't use it as much as I expected. Looking back on this decision, if I did this all over again, I will probably go with reflex. There were a lot of situations where I didn't have a melee weapon with me, and I ended up relying on a handgun. So reflex may have been a better choice because of the handgun perk tree. As for leveling up, I decided to go in a 4-2-1 ratio between body, tech, and cool. I will be posting in the description level by level what I chose, all the way up to level 30. Note that you may earn perk points from leveling up your attributes, so feel free to spend those as you see fit. The main perk points that you should prioritize are Crushing Blows, Flurry, and Dazed within the Street Brawler perk tree, Shrapnel, Grenadier, and Bigger Booms within the Engineering perk tree, and True Craftsman, Mechanic, Sapper, and Grease Monkey within the Crafting perk tree. As for my weapon of choice, I went with the Bat. Taking all this info into consideration, I felt I had a great concept of what I wanted my build to be. So I shot my way through the intro for the lack of melee weapon availability in the first quest. I woke up in my apartment ready to try out the build for the first time, and I rushed my way through the conversations with Jackie. Went on to meet Misty and Vic to get fixed up, and sat through the car ride with Dex. And finally, after all that, I was finally ready to test out the build. For Act 1, I was a little more open to taking on different quests. I had decided early on that for role-playing purposes, Johnny Silverhand was going to be my Mr. J, and I was going to base my decision off of his suggestions. I would only go against him if I needed to go against him just to make the story progress and be able to access endgame content. So, since Mr. J was not yet in the picture for Act 1, I decided to try the build out against some cyber psychos. To my surprise, the build did exceptionally well against the cyber psychos that you meet in Act 1. Against melee cyber psychos, I could block their attack effortlessly. I just kept my guard up, and every time I blocked their attack, I just hit them, and the fights went on really effortlessly. It was kind of easy for a very hard difficulty. As far as cyber psychos who use guns or any other type of ranged weapon, they turn out to be even easier. I mean, just as long as I got up and close on them and landed that first hit, I was able to stagger them, and as long as I kept hitting, I didn't have any problems with them, and it was easy to take them out because by staggering them, they're not really able to shoot at you. So yeah, it surprisingly was even easier. So after having my fun with Cyber Psychos, I decided to finally finish Act 1 by saying bang to Royce. Went and finally did the BD quest with Judy and Evelyn, and went up and shot my way through the heist. I say shot my way through the heist because sadly I've never gotten a melee weapon to drop during that quest, and my fists weren't really enough for that quest. I know there's a sword up in the roof, but swords weren't really Harley Quinn style, so I didn't use it. And after I shot my way through the heist, I sadly said goodbye to Jackie one last time, and shortly after met Mr. J, who simplified the decisions for me going forward. I won't detail every side quest and gig I ended up doing with this build, as the video will end up lasting too many hours. Just keep in mind that I did anything Johnny suggested. As far as the main quest go, I first went with Judy's option and shot Whoopman in the face a couple of times. And after that, following that same quest line, I ended up fighting Matilda, who is a really cool boss, and that's one of the bosses that we got to see on the trailer. My fight with Matilda wasn't that bad. I expected it to be a lot more difficult than it turned out to be. All I had to be cautious of was her sledgehammer, because 2 hits from that thing and I would have been a goner, and so I resorted to dodging a lot. But once she lets go of the sledgehammer, I mean, the fight became really quite simple. Once she lets go of the hammer, I'm able to block her attacks. I'm able to hit her with no problem. She gets a stagger a couple of times. Yeah, it was pretty simple once she lets go of the sledgehammer. See for yourself. Once I defeated Matilda, I met with the corpo guy at the cinema and didn't let him speak. So in a way, I think I sided with the Voodoo Boys. After that, I took the car ride and finally met with the Voodoo Boys and ultimately met Alt beyond the Black Wall. Then I decided to go meet Takamura and Oda at the docks after finishing that questline for Judy. And I started following Takamura's questline, which ended up with V fighting Oda. I have to say, Oda turned out to be a pretty easy fight with this build. Other than some unpredictable attacks I wasn't able to dodge, the whole fight went on pretty smoothly. After quickly disposing of Oda, I met with Takamura and I made sure that I knocked 4 times. I then proceeded to meet with Hanako Arasaka, and me and Takamura explained what really happened to her father, only to shortly after get attacked and fall 1 whole floor while inside the building. This is where my roleplay and my loyalty to Mr. J was finally put to the test, as I had to let Takamura behind. This is the first playthrough where I didn't save him, so I'm sorry, Takamura. Shortly after, I woke up in Pacifica with Johnny, where I immediately started and completed his questline. Once his questline was completed, I felt my V had accomplished what she set out to do, so I decided it was time to start the final mission. It may come as no surprise that I opted to follow Johnny's suggestion and gave him control of V's body, so him together with Rogue could storm Arasaka Tower together and save V. If you leveled up enough, the first half of this quest is pretty simple. So I slammed and blew my way through Arasaka Tower until finally Adam Smasher and Johnny were face to face once more, so the final battle could begin. This fight isn't that complicated. You can continue to hit Smasher with your melee weapon by going around him in circles. The only thing that you should be worried about in this fight is his missiles, because I don't know of any way to defend from those missiles with a melee weapon, so just make sure that you evade them completely. Once you drop his HP to somewhere between 40 and 50%, he's gonna jump up into the 3rd floor and he's gonna become unreachable, and the second phase of the fight is gonna start. For this second phase, what you want to do is take care of his minions, because in the 3rd floor, like I said, he's gonna be unreachable, and unless you have one of those jumping cyberwares, which in my case with this build I didn't have it, you're not gonna be able to reach him. So my suggestions here would be to take care of the minions. There's gonna be 2 robots on the ground floor. You can then, with your grenades, pick out the shooters that are gonna be with him on the 3rd floor. And once they are all taken out, he's gonna come back down to the 2nd floor, where you're gonna be able to fight him one-on-one once again. Once you take care of Atom Smasher and you finish him off, the option is gonna appear to either let him live or kill him. In my playthrough, with all that Harley Quinn and Johnny went through, and after Johnny seeing how he killed Rogue, I decided to kill him. I didn't give him the option, so I decided to kill him. After that, you're gonna meet Alt. Alt is gonna release you from the relic, and it's gonna give you the option of either returning to your body, or in this case V returning to her body, and with 6 months left to live, or Johnny keeps the body and he can live forever. Depending on who keeps the body, the other one stays with Alt beyond the black wall and the cybernetic space, whatever. In my case, I was leaning towards letting Johnny keep V's body, because given Harley Quinn's devotion to Mr. J, that's the thing that made the most sense. However, since keep in mind that Johnny is the one who has control of V's body in this final mission, so technically it is Johnny's decision who gets to keep the body. So Johnny had nothing left to come back to. Rogue just died in front of him. If he stayed in the cyber world, he could be with Alt. So in my playthrough, it made sense for Johnny to give V's body back and just stay with Alt. And that way he even completed his promise to her that he would return the body. So I had a lot of fun creating this video for you guys and going through this playthrough with my Harley Quinn inspired build. I would say the build is completely doable. It's a great way to pass the game. You get to do things that you've never done before. So if you enjoyed the video and you're still watching, consider smashing that like button. And I have a few more ideas of builds that I want to do and different ways that I want to complete the game. So if that's something that you look forward to seeing, then subscribe to the channel and see you next time.